Hi everybody! In this video I'm doing simple encased stringers, part of my stringer series. I'm going to show you two ways to do it, and in the first way this is to make a quick shorter stringer. So if you don't need a lot of stringer, it's really easy to just make a stringer right off the end of your rod. So what I'm using here is a dark turquoise color, and I'm going to be encasing it with purple. And so basically these stringers, it's just a core color and an outside color. Very simple, and you can mix and match many different colors to make these stringers. So I have my rod heated at the end, and I am just gonna wrap around with my purple. It's like a thick stringer. It was actually just a little bit of purple I had left, so I pulled it out to make it longer. But you want to make sure you really push in and sort of overlap each layer when you're wrapping around. You can also wrap it vertically along the side of the the long length of the rod, whichever way you prefer. I do it both ways, but I'm just wrapping and covering the whole end of the rod with the purple, and I'm just going to heat this up, and I'm going to punty it up with the same purple rod to hold it and pull out as a stringer. And this only takes a couple of minutes, and so if you just need a little bit of color, it's an easy way to do it. So I just make sure I heat it up, it's ready to pull, and I just gradually pull out the stringer. And you get the length you want. I'm trying to make these stringers a little bit thicker than I normally do, just so it'll be easier to make these videos and you can see them easier on the video. Sometimes I pull them out pretty thin. This is probably a 2 to 2.5 millimeter stringer. And so there you have it. There's the stringer. Oh, and it broke off the rod. But that's the blue and purple. The next stringer I'm making is if you want to make a thicker or more of a stringer. And so what you want to do is heat a ball up on the end of your rod so you have more mass, and this will result in a longer stringer. So if you need more of a color, this is the way to do it. And I make a barrel shape, as you see there, and the reason for the barrel shape instead of just leaving it a ball is so that you will have an even coating all the way across your stringer, or your final stringer, but all the way across that ball of glass. If it was actually a ball shape, you might lay thicker amounts of stringer on the inside and the outside curve edge of that ball, and so it really won't be an even stringer all the way across. So basically the reason why you make your barrel is just for evenness throughout the stringer. And so this one is a core of white, as you could see, and I am encasing it with Rubino. And Rubino's kind of touchy. If you get it too hot, if you get it really white hot, you can burn out the color and it'll kind of turn clear. You can reduce it also and make it turn black, which isn't fun. So what I like to do with my stringers, because they're so delicate, is to encase them with a little bit of clear just to protect them. So I put on one layer of Rubino here, as you can see, and I am going to flatten this back out into a barrel shape and do a second encasing of Rubino, just because when it's pulled out, it gets watered down a lot. It looks like a really dark ruby color, but when it thins out, it can be really pale pink. So I want it a little bit denser, and so I put another layer on just like the first, but I skipped that section just so you don't have to watch it. But this is with the second layer on. You can see it's a little bit darker Rubino, and now I'm going to put on the encasing of clear. And so I just want a really thin layer for protection. And so what I'm doing here is I'm almost holding the rods vertically to each other and swiping down, pushing with my rod down onto the glass in a downward motion, and it gives it a much thinner layer. And this is when I swipe, the rod length. And so you can see it gives a lot thinner of a layer. It's not so thick. So if you really want a thin layer on something, this is the way to do it. They're almost vertical to each other, and you can actually superheat your clear and make a super thin layer. I'm not trying to get way too thin here, because it will be pulled out very skinny at the end, so I'm not too worried about it. So after I get this layer on, I'm going to speed up the video just so you don't have to watch all the melting and forming. It's just a big waste of time. So I'm going to speed it up so that you don't have to sit here and watch me for 20 minutes heating and pulling out stuff. So hopefully that'll help you guys anyways. Don't want to bore you guys to death. But anyways, so I think I'm almost done putting this on. I want to just make sure I have every single bit covered. And here's the speed up section. So I'm just trying to smush some of those lines down to make sure they're totally connected and covering. And so here I am. I'm like flattening it out, making sure the layer's nice and even on there on that barrel. It helps when you marver it a little bit to even out the bumps, you know, because you can make like bumps across it. And so now I'm just going to heat it, and I'm going to pull it out into a stringer just like I did the first one. It's just a little bit bigger, so it's going to be a little bit longer. So this will give you more to work with. And so this is just more of a mass. It's the same idea, more of a mass. So it'll give you a much longer stringer. And so there you have it. It's coming up. Almost done. And there's my stringer. I'm going to try to break it off the end there. So now I slowed it down. So this is real time right here. So anyway, so now we're going to make a bead with these stringer. Give you a couple ideas of what to do with them. The first one I'm going to use is the blue. And I'm just going to make a little stripe. And I also have this sped up to about 1.5 times. Just so it goes a little faster for you guys. So I'm just going to make a little twirl around the bead, tapering it off at the end there. Just a little swirl around it halfway up. I'm going to use both stringers on this bead just to give you an idea. Of course, you know, any ideas you have, put them on the glass. It's great. So this is just a stripe. You can make stripes all over your stringers. You can make dots all over with your stringers. It really doesn't matter what you would like to do with it. And these are just a couple ideas. And so I am going to heat this up now, and I think I'm going to speed it up even faster now, I think. Yeah, there you go. I want to keep the basic shape that I have, but it's going to end up being kind of more like a balloon shape at the end, just because of the pink stringer I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just heating up one section, and I'm going to swipe it down and make all the glass move to one side. This is called raking. I find it easier to do it just with a piece of glass, and I'm using the same blue stringer that I put on the color with. And I think it's easier to just use a piece of glass because the glass sticks a lot better to itself than trying to use a metal tool. I've never had a lot of luck with a metal tool for raking. And so I'm just raking in all the same direction. You can rake back and forth and make a feathering effect. But for this, I'm just going to rake in one direction just to show you. And they're not all even or anything. It's just a demonstration bead, so it's not even all the way across. I could have tried to have been more precise with it. And on some beads I am. But this is just an abstract design, so I'm not really too worried about it. So after you're done raking those, like what I'm doing there is you want to pull those points. You pull them really fast and really thin to get a nice little taper point at the bottom of your rakes so that it all comes together. All the color comes together at the bottom and gives you a nice termination point. And so I'm just pushing those little dots I just pulled out, the little pieces of glass I pulled out, pushing them back into the bead. And now I'm going super fast again, reshaping the bead to get it ready for the pink I'm going to use. So now I'm going to use the Rubino stringer I made. And so one of the most common And there's, you can see it in the upper corner. There's the design I made. But one of the most common things that are made, especially with Rubino stringer, are little flowers, little rose flowers melted in. And so that's what I'm making here. And basically, it's just a swirl. So I usually start at the outside of the circle that I want to make, and I go inward. You could go either way, whatever's easier for you, out to in out. But I feel that if I go from outside edge to inward, I get a little more swirl in the middle for like the middle of the rose flower that you're making. And you could always add more of that swirl to the top if you don't think there's enough of it. And so what I'm doing here is I'm pushing them all down, pushing them a little flat so that the center swirl that I made stays in the center and doesn't blend out at all. So I'm kind of pushing them down into the bead, and then I'll melt it all in again. And this is where I go really super fast again, so you don't have to watch it all. This bead probably took me, I think about maybe 15 minutes or so to make. So I'm sure you didn't want to watch all this melting going on. I think half the time you spend in glass is melting, at least half the time, is melting it and shaping it. So there you go. So we have some rosebuds and we have some little pulled stringer at the end, and I'm just going to add the same blue stringer with the purple on it. I'm just adding some dots to the top. And I'm melting those in also. This is just going to be a flat surface bead. I could have left them raised if I wanted. I could have left the rosebuds raised a little bit also. It's whatever you would like to do with your glass. So, and here's the end. I think it's almost done. The final bead completed. And there you have it. So that's encased stringer and some things you can do with it. I hope you have fun with it, and thanks for watching.